Was a time of the preacher when a story begun. Choice of a woman and the love of a man, and how he loved her so dearly. He went out of his mind. Well, she left him for someone she left behind. And he cried.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you tonight. At least I'm seeing a camera.
Well,
I hope
you're
I'm
seeing
seeing
a
you.
couple
There
people.
there are a few folks. Oh, we're already up to a dozen before we even get started good tonight. So that's a pretty good start. And I know others will be joining us along the way tonight. And before we even get to our tremendously talented and gifted guest tonight, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in on these Wednesdays. This has been a lot of fun, don't you think, Garrett?
Yeah,
I mean, we
man,
did it. We
it's
started
been-
it as a whim, you know, just to
Like,
answer.
is this gonna work?
Well,
don't
you know,
know.
that's how Simple Faith started, though. Is this going to work? You know, that was the question
Right,
we
right,
asked.
right,
We didn't
right.
know for sure. And then this whole coronavirus season that we have had, same questions were asked. Is this really going to work? And it's worked just wonderful. And I think
Half a year.
half a year
we've been doing
now.
this.
This next week,
It's hard
anyway.
to believe that.
And you ran some numbers the other day that our initial views were over 1,000 when
Yeah,
we
we were
first
getting
started.
close to 2,000.
2,000, and we've still averaged between about 700 views
Yeah,
over
at
the
least.
6 months,
Right.
which
yeah.
is still incredibly.
Yeah, if you took the overall average, it's over 1,000, but we've tapered off the past 6 weeks or so, which is understandable.
Well, and you have a couple technological difficulties. Does that take into account folks who are watching on YouTube later?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, we have we average. I haven't really checked recently, but the last I saw over a couple hundred on YouTube.
Yeah, I had a meeting today, 2 different meetings today, and both folks at the meeting said, one of them said, I turned on and listened to the audio of the service on my way to work
Wow.
on Mondays after
That's
upload.
cool.
So that's pretty cool, and trying to take care of folks who have joined us that way.
Mhm.
Let me say hello tonight to Jane McCauley. Hey, Jane. Carolyn Mullins is out there. David Finn. Good to see you, David. Sarah Brunson. Sarah without an H is here, she says.
Yeah.
Well, she is.
What happened to that?
Do you know
Where
Sarah?
did it fall off?
Do you know Sarah?
Uh,
Ooh, she's something.
I believe I
Let
do.
me tell you.
Yeah.
I love Sarah Brunson. Terry Olive is watching. Peggy Fogarty is watching. Albert Mills. Hey, my friend Al. Jane McCauley is back saying Jane is here. See Jane. Victoria Hunt, as usual. Hey, Victoria. I am always glad to see you. Faye Messer-Reed. Faye, you can say in the comments tonight whether you are at Lake Hartwell or whether you are at the beach or whether you are in Asheville. Because if she's in Asheville, I wish I was with her.
Whoa.
Be nice and cool.
Except for tonight.
No, I mean she's got a great little house there in Asheville. Cindy and I have stayed on it. She gave it to us for a couple nights vacation. It's a wonderful place. Have you ever been to Asheville?
No, we actually. What's funny is, somebody gifted us, a nice, beautiful gift for our wedding, and said we were honeymooning in Pigeon Forge, and they're like, "Hey, you need,
everybody honeymoons. in
they're
Pigeon
like, you
Forge.
need to hop on down to Asheville," and we're like, we're going to keep the gift and go whitewater rafting instead. So
Oh, well, that's
yeah, we
good, too.
enjoyed that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Where'd you whitewater raft? The Ocoee? Did you do the Big River?
It wasn't.
Nanahala?
No, it wasn't anything to brag about. It was one of those, hey, let's release water from the dam to make raft. It's what they do at the little kids water park to make you feel
okay.
like you're,
all right. Well,
you're living life large,
Doug Balfour is watching. My good friend Jim Gibby from North Georgia is watching. Hey, Jim Gibby. Doug Balfour. The Balfours are here, fresh off the plane from Philly. Well, wash your hands
Hopefully they
if
brought
you've
some
been on an
Phillies.
airplane. And Rebecca from across the country, glad you're on. So there's a lot of folks watching already, about 3 dozen, moving toward 3 dozen now. And without further ado, we have
further-
a special guest tonight, Mr. Lyle. I shouldn't clap my hands on camera. Mr. Lyle Sandquist. Dr.
heard of-
Sandquist,
No,
I presume.
Lyle's good.
Lyle Crocodile.
Yeah,
So good to see
yeah.
you. Thanks for driving up to the port.
Yeah, this is pretty cool up here. I mean, this is pretty neat. I like it.
Many of you know Lyle at church by Smiley, because he's hanging around in the foyer on Sunday mornings and saying hello. But he is, and we're going to talk about his work tonight and a lot of different things. He is an accomplished therapist, marriage and family therapist. He's been practicing here in Walton County for a long time. I'll let him say exactly how long that is. We're going to adjust his microphone there for a minute, get it close to him, boost his volume. I've just looked forward to talking about a lot of his work. But let me begin by saying, first of all, that obviously with your accent, you're from Mississippi. Is that right?
Yes, yes. Or
Wisconsin. So where Wisconsin is home for you? That's
It
where you
is.
grew up,
I was
right?
born and raised in Wausau, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Employers Insurance of Wausau.
Yeah.
And I was in a one-room school for 6 years. I was the smartest one in my class because there were two of us, and then I went on to a larger high school. And my sister was down here in Florida, and I came to visit her a few times, and I said, why am I going back up there into that freezing cold?
Was she at Eglin?
She was. She was.
Wow.
So she was a captain in the Air Force at the time, and they had just gotten married in 1980, and I came and stayed with them for about 4 months and said, this is not bad.
That did it.
Yeah. I went back for my master's at that time, and then later went on for my doctorate over at Florida State. So.
Oh, great. Was that the commuting days? Did you have to go to Tallahassee?
I lived in Tallahassee.
You lived.
For
You
those
had to
3
move over.
years.
Yeah.
I had to move there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great 3 years, though. Best part of my education, best part of my clinical training were those 3 years over there. Plus, my wife and I, it was our courtship, and we married in '87 after I graduated.
Oh, great year.
Great.
That's a great year.
The year you were
87.
born, right?
What day were you married? Just
April 18th.
Oh man, yeah, just about a month before I was born. Fantastic.
Unbelievable.
That made you feel better,
Oh,
didn't
that
it?
makes
Yeah,
me feel
yeah.
real good. Yeah.
No, he
yeah.
says things like that sometimes
Yeah,
to make
yeah.
me feel really bad. So from the Great White North to the Great White Beaches here along the Emerald Coast, and your doctorate degree, of course, the program you went through, licensed family and marriage and family
therapist. Yeah.
So psychology, psychiatry. Tell me the difference between those two real quick.
Well, my master's was in psychology. For
Mm-hmm.
the longest time, I could call myself a psychologist. When I was at the Cope Center for 4 years,
Right.
clinical director up there, I could call myself a psychologist because it sounded pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then I realized that psychologists are, licensed. They go through 5 years of clinical training to get their degrees, and they don't appreciate it when some master's level person goes around calling themselves a psychologist.
Yeah, they're on you
And,
pretty quick.
and psychiatrists are physicians. They go on to medical school and they do the specialty in psychiatry. So again, that's out of my class, out of my league. We do a lot of referrals to psychologists for evaluations. We do a lot of referrals to psychiatrists for medication evals. And so I do them mostly with just marriage and family therapy.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, growing up, did you grow up in farmland or the city?
I sure did.
Farmland.
Yeah, like drove tractors and cleaned pens, and yeah, we didn't move to the city till I was 14.
Oh, great! I love that. So what makes a farm kid, coming of age in the 70s, late 60s? I'm gonna go study psychology and become a therapist. What's that all about?
Well, actually, I love sports, and I followed our quarterback to the university over in Eau Claire. We were roommates over there because I wanted to play sports. And my first A was in sociology. So I thought, okay, that sounds pretty good. I got an A in sociology. And then I said, I love people. I mean, I just loved all people. Ever since I was a kid, I just loved kids. I loved adults. I just loved people. And so I started going into social work classes and getting good grades.
Yeah.
And so I thought, maybe somebody's trying to tell me something here, you know? And so that's really how I started to go into just working with people and just enjoying working with people.
Did you have? And we've talked, and I'm going to ask questions tonight of Lyle like I don't always know the answer to, but Lyle and I have had countless conversations over the last 12 or 13 years, far ranging, and most of this I've heard, some of it I haven't, depending on which direction it goes. But I don't think I've ever asked you this question: what was your faith community then? Did you? What was your
In the
church?
country?
Yeah.
I grew up Lutheran.
Lutheran, eh?
Lutheran, yeah. You guys over there. In fact, I'll have long talks with my sister about what a good foundation of what I call today unconditional love we had from our church. I mean, it was singing. I remember getting up in front of the congregation when I was 6 and singing Away in the Manger, in front of everybody by myself. It's like, are you kidding me? If I think back to that now, I'd cringe.
I can really be hard on the church. But I am telling you, my wife, who was raised Lutheran, had the exact same experience.
Yeah.
That there were, and I'm sure it's across the board in many churches, particularly if they're really non-fundamentalist churches, where the faith community was healthy and strong, and they really taught their people to be engaged in the community rather than to retreat from the community, and this whole sense of it was just wholeness and wellness, and that's not been all of our experience, but it's so good to hear. You have less to recover from religiously as you get older, I think, if that's your experience.
Well, as I get along further in my career and I look at the difference between conditional love and unconditional love, and obviously God has unconditional love for all of us, and it's the flesh part of us that has conditional love, and that becomes judgmental and critical of one another, and even within our churches. And I just didn't have that experience growing up, but I was young. So, I mean, I didn't get really into the adult phase at that young age. So it felt unconditionally loving through Vacation Bible School and going off to camp. And
what a
it
great
was just all the fun stuff. Yeah. And yet also that instruction we got at that time, it wasn't threatening, it wasn't intimidating, it wasn't frightening. I mean, it was fun actually to learn. And so that was a good beginning to my spiritual walk.
And when you moved to the city, did you stay in the Lutheran church? Did things change?
Yeah, we got confirmed in Wausau, which, I went from a one-room classroom with 18 kids in 8 grades to a graduating class. My senior year was 860 or 880 kids in one class. So it was pretty intimidating going from a one-room school to graduating from 800 plus.
Small school for you?
Pretty small.
Your upbringings would be closer.
Yeah.
Even though you're separate, you were only born in 1987.
Yeah.
Still, your upbringings would be closer, that Midwest prairie feel. Is that ring true for you?
It's got to be. I mean, we were a farming community in western Iowa, 1,500 in our hometown. So, I had a decent graduating class, for that area. We had like 62 or 63 in my class, but still relatively small school.
Sure,
so
very, very.
Yeah. I think maybe 300, less than that in high school.
Yeah.
So,
Garrett, let's give a little tape on the tape output to your far right. Let's give that a little boost, or the phone's output. I think that'll help folks with the volume. Lyle's not as loud as we preachers, because he's used to talking to people in a calming.
Exactly, that's right. I'm trying to bring them to good place.
We're trying not to put you to sleep.
Therapists are always calming people down, and preachers are always trying to raise the dead. That's what That's been one of the main differences. So our speaking styles are a little bit different. So you find your way here to Walton County. Via your sister helps you out with that. You find this job, you go back to school, and then you were with the Cope Center, and the Cope Center is still highly functioning today. It's essentially the public mental health operation here in Walton County. My therapist, when I was going through a divorce and shortly after my divorce, a man named Horace Stewart, which is irony of all ironies in talking to Lyle, followed Lyle and took Lyle's job after Lyle left Cope. Because he did the same thing Lyle did. On a lark, he moved to the beach because his mother-in-law lived in Defuniak and moved in there, and he was broke from school and kind of
sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar. He cut,
Yeah,
his teeth at Cope, and then had the experience to get on his way.
Yeah.
You left Cope and went toward private practice. So what's your career path been like here in Walton County as a result of that?
Well, one of my therapists that I hired at the Cope Center started Destin Counseling Center way back in 1982, and he actually encouraged me to go back and get my doctorate. And at the time I thought, no, I'm not smart enough to get a doctorate. That's just over my head. I'm content here at Cope. I think I'll do just fine. And he said, well, at least apply. This is Randy Brook, still a great friend and longtime colleague. And I said, well, I'll put in my application, but, I just don't think my grades were good enough, through my master's and my, bachelor's, and I don't know what they're looking for over there. But so I went for an interview. They called and I went for an interview, and they only were taking 9 students that year. And so fortunately I got in.
9 lives.
9 lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were the first one out of the program.
Yeah.
You were saying earlier.
I told you the funny story because I had the lowest GPA of 9 students. I had a 3.6.
That's still fantastic.
Well, I know it is. For me, it was fabulous, but it was the lowest of 9. And yet I was the first one to go to a dissertation and defend my dissertation and get out of the program. And so
I'm going to come back to that.
Yeah.
Because I have a question about why that was possible. So let's mark that spot and we'll come back to it. But I don't want to waste any more time, and we certainly have been wasting any time. But Lyle has this very unique numbering system that he uses in his therapy and in coaching in relationships and in families. He's helped me with this with my own children. He's helped my own children. And he's helped hundreds and hundreds of people here in Walton County. So lay it out for us, Lyle. Here is the great Sandquist spectrum.
For free.
For free, yeah. Well, as I told you, this was going to be kind of strange because on my scale, when I go into my office, I automatically go into work gear. I mean, it's just automatic. I start asking questions. I start wanting to find out all about the family systems that each of the couple usually that come in grew up in. And so by the time I get all their information, I've got a real good feel for where their family system operates. And so then I say, well, this is kind of how I operate. And so I use my hands to describe things a lot because it's easier. Mainly males connect with visual. You're either auditory or you're visual. And some people like to see what I'm talking about. The pandemic has made it tough.
It's hard. You're like me. If we were to tie your hands, you would have a hard time speaking.
Ooh, that's what's been tough with the pandemic because we've had a lot of phone conversations. We do a lot of video, and so it's easier on video. And then there's the ones that really still require face-to-face, which we've been very cautious and very limited in who we will actually have contact with in our office yet. Just protecting ourselves and others. And so the cameras can see this, huh? They can see my hands.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at you right now.
You are okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the most domineering, controlling, obsessive compulsive, perfectionistic person you can imagine. Okay. I used to be able to throw some names around there. I got to be careful these days. And but they can own all of New York. They can own all of Atlanta. They just can't have a very good relationship with anybody because anything short of that 1, you're fired. Something's wrong with you. You're not good enough. I mean, this is the extreme unhealthiness on this direction. The 10 out here is under the Brooks Bridge, brown paper bag, kind of disconnected from family, disconnected from life. Okay. And so these are the two unhealthy extremes. Spiritually, I'd say Satan operates the most out there, pulls people out to those ends. 5, perfect center. That's where God operates. I mean, I don't know how that came to be, but 5 is perfect. We can't really get there from here. And if you look at a spiritual foundation, the 4 and the 6 is the healthy balance. If we can stay between a 4 and a 6, we're staying within hand's reach, arm's length of God's. Okay, so 4s are more structured. Your 8 o'clock service is hymnals, bulletins, cross T's, dot I's, and half our population operates at the 4. We can't help it. I'm a 4. Ronnie's a 4. I'm not sure what you are yet.
We'll find out tonight.
We'll find out tonight. Yeah.
After this
right.
is over.
That's right. Yeah. Again, really, there's no judgment on it.
It's neither good nor bad. It
no,
just
it is. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And I've always said, and so the 6s are more easygoing. 6s are more laid back. They take life as it comes more easily. And so, again, just like the contemporary service where there's holy jeans and long hair and loud music,
right?
Drives 4s crazy. It's like, man, I can't go to that 11 o'clock. And the contemporaries are saying, boy, are they ever rigid there in that 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
And again, so we're one or the other. If you look at family systems, when you start asking questions about, so tell me a little bit about your dad or your mom. And every relationship just about that I've ever come across in 45 years has a 4 and a 6 in it. And if you look at your children, there's some 4s and there's some 6s. My dad was a 4. My mom was a 6. Mm-hmm. I got a full colonel retired sister. She's a 4. I got a brother and a sister. Well, yeah, I got to be cautious. Like I say, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. 4s and 6s. That's right. And so trying to find that balance, because everybody has some of each in them. We just have more of one than the other. My wife, Sherry, is a 6. But when it comes to decorating or when it comes to antique shopping or her spaces at the antique malls, they're 4s.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm dragging out at the 6 at that time, because I know I'm just going to be hauling furniture or doing something like that. I'm not going to be involved in the decorating of it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that 4-6 balance is so important in family systems, because trying to have what I call unconditional love instead of conditional love. Conditional love says, I'd love you if you'd just be a little more 4-ish, or the 6 is saying, can't you just lighten up a little bit? Yeah. I mean, let go,
Come to me.
Yeah. Just, and so again, a lot of times by the time I get couples or families in the office, they're at about a 2 and an 8.
How did they get to that point?
Through judgment, through criticism, through disagreements. It's very difficult for 4s to let go to a 6 and see that a 6's way of doing things can be just fine. It's just going to take a lot longer probably, but it's going to come out fine. Or when a 6 doesn't see the 4 trying to control them or make them do what they want them to do, or try to, if so that they got their heels dug in, it's like if we can compromise, if we can come to center and have a discussion, this 4-6 balance can work in healthy relationships.
In a sense, it really is the healthy expression of opposites attract.
It is. 4 plus 6 equals 10. Perfect 10, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It could be.
Yeah.
But so does 2 plus 8 equal 10. So that's not too perfect. Or a 1 and a 9.
Right.
And
so the greater the distance between those numbers, essentially you're saying in that system, the greater the distance, almost there's a direct relationship between the happiness of that relationship and the satisfaction in that relationship based on the distance of the numbers between those folks.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and each of them can justify their position.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, if they wouldn't just be so rebellious and so resistant, I wouldn't have to be so firm and so,
Right.
or if they wouldn't be so firm and hard, I mean, I maybe would come in and listen to them a little bit, you know.
Right.
But each of them justify that digging their heels in, and it's like it's difficult to get a 2 to let go to the 4 and get a 8 to come into the 6, so that we can have a healthy discussion.
So, so we have a sort of this home base on either side of the 5. I mean,
That's
we're,
right.
we're we're driven by I need to control things, so we're driven by this sort of anxiety, or we're driven by I must not be controlled.
That's right. You're not going to control me.
You're not going to control me,
That's
which
right.
is on the other side.
That's right.
But given the scenario, I mean, like Cindy and I'm the 4. Cindy's the 6. Under pressure, Cindy is an 8.
Right.
Okay,
Because you appear to be a 2.
because she
at that
pulls
time.
back, and when I get
Yes.
under, not always under pressure, but if I get in a really unhealthy place, I move to 2. I become more controlling, anxious,
That's right.
defensive. But in other relationships, I don't operate that way.
Sure.
So I gave you an example earlier tonight. We interviewed my sister last week, my twin sister, whom I love. We had a great time. I appreciate her more now
That's right.
at nearly 50 than I ever did before.
Yes.
But my history with her has been such that when we're together, she is the 4. I move to the completely other side. So tell me why that dynamic
Well,
is what it is.
well, it's just like why 2 4s don't get together and 2 6s don't get together. 2 4s kind of butt heads because, who's going to be right here? And I don't agree with you. Well, I don't agree with you, and like you say, so we can either stay in here and battle it out, but that usually isn't what happens. 2 4s aren't attracted to each other. They are in a lot of things. Business, a lot of times business goes because we're both invested in this. This is a good investment. We may both make money. And so 4s working together a lot of times can be okay. But in relationships, and 2 6s aren't drawn to each other. 2 6s, what do you want to do tonight? I don't care. What do you want to do? I don't care. What do you want to do? I don't care.
Sort of rudderless.
Yeah, I don't care. It's like,
What kind of questions do you ask folk to help them understand where they are on that numbering system? Like, because I could say I think I'm a 6, but I might be a 4. But so, what kind of questions do you ask to dig into that?
well, usually I'll find out about your parents. Usually I'll ask,
It's always about the mom.
well,
These
that's right.
psychiatrists, these
That's
psychologists.
right. Yeah. No, if you look at your mom and dad, I mean, between your mom and dad, who would have been more 4-ish and who would have been more 6-ish in your mom and dad?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He's
I'm
asking you,
asking-
baby.
yeah,
All right.
He's asking
Yeah.
you, baby. Right now, live.
My mom would probably be more the 4 because I think she had to.
Yeah, structure with the kids.
Yeah.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have a brother and sister that I grew up with. I have an
Yeah.
Older sister that was adopted.
You see,
Okay.
and you see immediately it's complicated. You see that?
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
it gets
Well,
complicated.
well, that's right. That's right. It throws a little kink in there. And is your dad more laid back, easy-going, or is he
More passive.
more passive?
Yes.
Yeah. So who are you more like, your mom or dad, do you think?
I don't know.
Well, you got pieces of each.
Yeah.
This is great.
Or you look at your sisters, you say you got a brother and a sister?
Yeah, brother and a
Yeah.
sister. My brother's more passive.
Okay, your brother's more
He's
like your
he's more
dad.
laid back.
Yeah. Your sister's
Come
a
on,
little...
Garrett. We need your face up here while we're.
Oh
while
yeah,
he's
I
doing
need to
this.
put myself on here.
Yeah. I'm going to watch this.
Yeah. See,
See if I get.
you can get a lot of cues from
No,
the facial expressions. Yeah.
Well, we have a side angle, so my sister. That's a tough one. I would say she goes between a 4 and a 6.
Okay. Well, one of the other ways too is, are either your brother or sister married?
My sister is engaged.
She's engaged.
She's been married. Yes.
And who's okay? I could ask who her ex was. She more of a 4 or a 6? Or,
Oh, definitely 4.
see, so that, yeah, and either they knocked heads in here at the 4, or she was a 6 attracted to that. And is her fiance that she's engaged to more of a 4 or a 6?
I haven't met him.
Oh,
So
okay.
It gets
That's
complicated.
a tricky one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, knowing Garrett a little better than you,
Yeah.
he is, and this is not a deceptive thing. He's very much a chameleon in the sense that he will. And so I'm gonna. May I?
Sure.
Where are you in the birth order?
I'm the youngest.
Ding.
Mhm, yeah.
That's it. I mean, because you're a survivalist
Yeah.
in that sense. So you probably do carry elements,
Of each.
and you will move depending on what needs. You're probably very well. I know this about you. You can be very perceptive about what is expected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then not always intuitive that I need to do that, but I'm picking up some vibes here about what
Yeah.
needs to.
It reminds me of Rob Bell so
Yep.
much. Oh,
Well,
But that's and that's a survival thing.
right.
And a family of origin that is rather
Yeah, I call it
complicated.
Being
and that's
a
not
chameleon.
that's not an evil
Being a
thing.
chameleon, you can change colors according to, adapt and adjust to whatever you're feeling at the time. So if someone's asking you or requiring you to go into the 4, I can do that. And if you see that, okay, they've got that covered, I can just be okay drifting out here to the 6. Again, nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's just understanding it about ourselves and recognizing how we operate in different situations when strong 4s pop in or you see a 6 that's kind of lost or whatever, and we adapt and we adjust to kind of complementing them and helping them out.
And it makes me wonder though, because we talked about this just briefly prior to starting, that given my life experience, I've been able to take it. The different difficulties that have happened, being able to take it, ingest it, and whether or not I've internalized it or fought through it and wrestled with it and come out the other side, that's yet to remain seen.
Sure.
I mean, that's for down the road. I have no idea.
Sure. That's right.
But
That's
I've
right.
always had this attitude of, look, I can't change the circumstances that have been dealt to me, so I just need to live out what I've been dealt. I need to play the cards that I've been given. I'm not going to let it drag me down. Instead, I'm going to keep moving forward and make the best of the situation. But I've also, it's interesting, chameleon's a great word. Is it more likely that a chameleon
Is green or brown?
We are going to end this broadcast so that
that's right.
Garrett and Lyle can have a few moments.
I mean, I'm curious though.
Yeah.
Can you jump quicker to a 7 or an 8, or a 4 and a 3 because of that?
Well, I mean that's a really good question. I mean, I'm so used to watching relationships and watching how people adapt and adjust to others in their family systems, especially children. If I watch teenagers or whatever, and I see their reaction, either accommodating a 4 kind of parent by doing what they want them to do. And yet then, is that really coming from inside of them? And does that really feel good about what they just did? Or are they just doing it to patronize and pacify that parent? Because you'll see then what they do the other direction when they're not looking. Do they go out then to the 7 or the 8 because they've kind of patronized that 4 parent?
Boy, there's a whole lot of know thyself in this, isn't there?
Oh, that's what it's all about.
About the inner work of just, what trips the triggers, what are the dangerous places for me, where am I healthiest? All that's at play. I mean, essentially, when you're doing therapy, it's not about salvaging a relationship as much as it's about each individual, right?
You bet.
Is that how you feel?
Oh, yeah. I will say this to couples. I will say, I know you guys have been watching each other, and I know you know each other's weaknesses and their shortcomings, and you guys can tell me all day what's wrong with the other person. That's not going to get you guys to a better place.
Oh,
Nope.
Okay? Right. It's what's got you to this 2 and 8 place to begin with.
It's
okay?
what got you to this place.
Yeah,
right here with me.
That's right. Yeah. So when I actually ask a couple if they really can, if they're serious about getting help and serious about doing therapy and couples therapy or whatever, I want you to spend a little time on yourself here over the next few weeks, just watching your reactions and your behaviors and trying to figure out whether you can stay in that 4-6 area. Regardless if your spouse does or your kids do or whatever, this is a challenge just for you to stay centered. You know, like say we can get married at the altar and the 4 can be worried about what's at the house and the 6 can be, seeing their buddies over there in the corner and, we can leave the perfect union in God's name and immediately go to our 4 and 6 or 3 and 7.
Because we learned that at the earliest stage of our earliest family, right?
You bet.
We're all coping.
You bet.
I in this. And it does apply to this series on Joseph I've been talking about, and his crazy dysfunctional family. But all families have a level of dysfunction.
They do.
And the individuals within those families are surfing those waves.
Yes.
Trying to stay afloat.
Yes.
And by whatever means, some can hang 10 and go with it, but some are just, they're hanging on.
Yes.
With their nose barely above water.
Yes. That's why I say if you're basing your health on the dysfunction or the unhealthiness of the system, you're going to have a hard time. If you're looking at your ability to get healthy for yourself, it's the best thing you can do, not only for your marriage, but your kids and obviously your health. Trying to stop a 4 from going in too far, and I speak from experience, trying to see way too many people make way too much money, do a merger with a bunch of psychiatrists because my ego was, inflated at the time. And the other part of me was out here exhausted, depleted, going, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm teaching at Troy State and I'm working at 12 Oaks and I'm seeing clients and I'm so tired that, Sherry's sitting there going, okay, I saw him go that way, and I've seen him go that way. I haven't seen him here for a while. Yeah. And so bringing myself back to center was what it was about. It wasn't about my marriage or Sherry. It was really about me getting back to a healthier spot.
Well, that just leads me into a question I have for. I'm sure in your line of work, you hear a lot of difficult stories. You see a lot of difficult things. How do you personally wrestle with that? It's just like, with pastors, man, some of the stuff that we're told and people share with us can be really, really, really heavy. And so how do you I'm trying to figure out how to ask this. How do you keep yourself healthy and grounded? Because this stuff gets internalized.
This is the question. This is the question I wanted to come back to, Garrett.
Yeah, good.
Because you've already asked it, but when you were able to complete your doctoral program first, because at the time, at least, as a young man courting Sherry, getting married, you had a real sense of life. This sounds like such a
cliche,
but you had life balance.
That's
the
right.
phrase.
That's right.
So you were a good student. No matter, even if you did,
That's right.
we're number 9.
That's right.
You were a good student. You had a plan. You're working hard, but you also, have met the love of your life.
Yep.
And I wish Sherry were here tonight. You would see why. She's the love of his life. She's a wonderful person, but she's not one that would sit in front of a camera.
No, she wouldn't be. She'd be behind your chair over there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But the point being that you saw, you may have lost your way at times and had to come back to center.
That's right.
But you had a real sense of, man, I can't do this work without taking care of myself.
That's right.
So tell me what that looks like as well, because
that was
that's
the question.
That's the question.
That was the question, and I really do say that Satan has a tendency to pull us in one direction or the other, and once I graduated and came back and was going to join a private practice and start being responsible for seeing clients and doing good work and making money to support Sherry and I and a new home and all this stuff, it's just tantalizing and tempting, and you don't see yourself, you don't notice yourself being pulled in to the 3 and the 2 and the 1.
Yeah.
You don't even recognize it if you're really not aware of having enough balance in your life. So that was a spiritually, Ronnie's used this in a few sermons, a damn gift to me. That was the 4x4
I
alongside
quoted you
my
Sunday.
head. I know, I heard that. Excuse me. Yeah, that is the 4x4 I got when one day Sherry said, Lyle, I don't know what's happening, but, do we need to like maybe sell our property and maybe move up north of the bay? And I'm going, what are you talking about? Because, I was meeting with accountants and attorneys and psychiatrists, and we were building
isn't it a
this
surprise,
big merger.
though, when somebody hits you like that?
Well, yes.
Because you were doing what you were supposed to do.
I thought I was, yeah. I was so far in, I couldn't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
And it took just that kind of comment from Sherry to have the light bulb come on. And so most people are saying, okay, I got to deal with this depression or this, substance abuse or whatever is going on out here, this anger and rage. I've got to deal with this. Maybe I need medication. I'm not sleeping, right? But the culprit a lot of times is over here. This is the one that creates this. Strokes, heart attacks, cancer. My dad stayed in here, worked 3 jobs, raised 4 kids, and died when I was 25 of cancer. And here I was on the same path. How can I just be repeating something that I watched and said, I'll never do that, right? And here I was.
Yeah.
And so immediately downsizing my work and bringing, and people won't think I'm retired now, but I've only been working 2 days a week for 20 years. My goal was arrive alive at 55 when I was 50. And I knew that I couldn't
Wait a minute, I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. I couldn't keep that up. That's right.
Yeah.
But it was really reeling this back into the 4 because I was, still, I loved what I do. And I still love it today because I only do 2 days a week. It's all I can really manage without getting unhealthy and out of balance and out of control.
It's not that you can't work more. It's just that it becomes. I'm channeling you. Tell me if this is true. It's not that you can't work more. You're afraid of working more. You know you.
That's right.
Well enough to know that, I'm an age-defying man, and you are, because you're past your 6th decade. And you look like you could be 45, and you play a hell of a tennis game.
A young Tom Selleck.
I'm telling. Yes, exactly. But my point being is, you well enough that if you dive in head first, that you'll just keep going. You'll just keep swimming into the deeper water, won't you?
Well,
A man's got to know his limitations.
I've been doing this long enough that actually what I'll catch, Ronnie, is I'll catch that I'm not enjoying tennis. I'll catch that I'm not enjoying the things that I really found pleasure in. The 6 things that are really kind of balancing for me, just like they were in Tallahassee when I was over there. I have that when I'm healthy. When at the 4 and the 6, I'm able to really enjoy tennis. When I get taken too far in here to the 3 or the 2, pretty soon I'm not enjoying those people. I'm not liking my partner. I'm not liking the people on the other side of the net.
But it's not their fault.
It's their fault.
It's not their, but it's not their fault.
No, I thought you were being facetious. No. It's their fault. Yeah.
That's what a 2 would say, right?
Well,
that's what we would say.
right.
It's your fault.
That's right.
I'm doing what's right.
Yes.
By God.
That's right.
I mean,
you're messing up.
Right.
Yeah. Which is what happens in marriages too.
And I have to say, I do have to interject this, that when my family and I left Simple Faith for a while, went back to Georgia and helped my friend Chad, who had just buried his wife from cancer. He had 4 young children, and then just had this real sense of calling to come back. Lyle's main concern when I came back was, look, man, you don't need to go back to working 60 hours a week.
Yeah, where you were.
I mean, he met me at the county line.
afraid of that.
And he got together a bunch of people, and they passed the hat, and like, we've bought you this membership at the club. You need to go swim. You need to go play tennis. You need to get a massage. You need to relax. And when I went back home and talked to Cindy about it, I'm like, Lyle's lost his mind or something. He's like worried about me or something, like I'm going to pop or something. And Cindy said, well, you might.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
Did you stop golfing?
What?
Did you stop golfing? Because golfing makes everybody a 2.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that, because I can golf now, the 5 or 6 times a year that I golf. Love the game. I mean, I get angry. I throw clubs.
Yes.
But if I've shot 100, I'm like, man, that was really good.
It's just nice to be out.
Nice to be out.
Yeah.
But I recognize that, now as I'm getting older, I'm tracking right behind you, is, that was really an act of concern.
It was.
And my wife would
Because I've
say,
been there and done it.
my wife would say that I still lose my balance.
Mm-hmm.
But she would also say that I'm doing better than I've done.
Yeah.
As you get older,
Yeah.
you just have to say, I can't do that. And it's not even, and you can be a person that, like, people are in your profession and people are in my profession because we want to fix people. When most of the time we're trying to fix ourselves. Mm-hmm. We learn eventually maybe that we can help people, but we can't fix people. Mm-hmm. But you also reach this point that saying no is not the worst thing that you can say.
No, sometimes it's the best thing you can say. That's right.
I'm
That's
just,
right.
I'm doing the best I can do.
Yeah.
By time, it's 45 minutes is gone.
We have a couple questions on here.
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
Peggy asks, what do you think of the political problems now causing families and friends to split?
Well, I think, again, it is this 1 in 9 environment that we're in, whether it's the coronavirus that's at the 1 in the 9, or the politics are at the 1 in the 9. Even the racial tensions are at the 1 in the 9. Mm-hmm. And so when people come into my office, again, it reminds me very much of the most extreme, worst divorce that I've ever encountered. They are just going to destroy the other side and just, disagree with everything there. Mm-hmm. And as a therapist, my best position is still to stay centered, to not judge, to not criticize, to not find fault, to not jump on somebody's bandwagon about, oh, yes, you are so right, or no, you are so wrong. No, it's because I say both ends of this spectrum are wrong. I mean, they're very unhealthy on both ends. Disagree? Sure. And again, if we can have a healthy conversation about any of it, it's from the 4 and the 6.
We have lost our middle.
Oh, exactly.
And I'm not talking about just the mushy middle, political middle. I'm talking about culturally, socially.
Yes.
Oh, it's awful.
That we have so little middle left.
That's right.
I don't, with all of my heart, I don't believe that the extremes are the majority.
Well, that's
I think they're the loudest.
Yeah. And again, it's just like yep. with unhealthy divorces. 1 out of every 2 marriages don't stay together, and so when you're looking at why they don't stay together, as you watch the divide and you watch the split growing further and further away, and I will still hear, no, I mean, I love those people, I love my kids. I love, mm-hmm. and yet their behaviors and their actions and what they're really doing out here is so sick and unhealthy for their kids or their families. And it's like, can you not reel yourself back in here to, what we would love our religious beliefs to be, that it's okay to be on one side or the other. I mean, the Republicans, the Democrats, it's really okay. Or whether it's the
Catholic,
pandemic
Protestant.
or Catholic, Protestant. It's like
it's okay.
It's like it's okay. Unconditional love is what God has for us, and it's what He asks us to have for each other. Mm-hmm. But boy, there's something about our conditional love that says, I mean, if you'd only think like I do, then I'd love you. But if you don't,
So you're really applying this number system back to it. I mean, it's not just about husband and wife and kids.
no, it's about
You can
life.
a
It's about the
corporation, a
world.
church,
Applies
politics,
to everything.
It-
It does.
I mean, I was about to ask you. So I'm a 2 husband and I'm married to a 7 wife, and we're what's our chances? But I could ask that about our country.
about everything. That's right.
Half the country's 2 and half the country is 8.
That's right.
We've got to find a way to come back to the middle.
That's right.
And
Not
not,
the-
through
n-
Facebook.
Not through Facebook.
Well,
Again, and I want
yeah.
to say this again. Not a
Yeah.
mushy middle where nothing matters.
No.
But a common
where everything matters.
Everything. We
Everything
can get our
matters
arms
here.
around
That's
these
right.
things.
That's right. I mean, the more we dig our heels in and justify our positions, the unhealthier we become. And
We have a very
We're going to get beat up if we don't ask.
We have a very serious question that's been asked 3 times by the same individual. And go ahead.
What's your take on pickleball?
well, I've played it one time, and I split 2 and 2. And I told my brother-in-law, who's much older than I, that when I get to be his age, I may start playing pickleball again.
It's kind of fun.
Well, I know. I hear
You know,
that. I did
we've-
enjoy it.
We've got a half a dozen courts here in Hammock Bay.
Yeah.
And Cindy and I have played. And we're actually, I'm going to confess this, we're actually members of the league.
Uh-huh.
We don't get to play as much because our lives are busy. We
Busy.
got one kid left to get out
Yeah.
of this house.
Yeah.
He's sleeping right on the other side of this door. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Cindy has come to the same conclusion. She's like, I still like tennis.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot more running around in tennis. You get a lot more exercise. I mean, there's a lot more skill in pickleball. I mean, I
A
could
lot
tell,
of
boy,
reflex
there's
stuff.
a lot of
Oh, yeah,
reflex
for
stuff.
sure.
But
What do you find most rewarding about your work? You've done it a long time. And
Yeah.
obviously you keep at least 2 days a week. You keep going into the office.
oh yeah. In fact, I say this to Sherry quite often. My greatest joy is when people quote get it. Really, when they get it and they understand this process. I mean, it's so rewarding to me. It's so exciting to me. Because still, I mean, and probably only because I only do 2 days a week. If I still did 5, it would be exhausting. I'd have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
But I look forward to it. I look forward to my Mondays and Thursdays. I mean, I look at my schedule and I'm excited to see them and them and them. And especially, like I say, when people get it and they start going, man, I can't believe how far in here I was. I mean, I had no idea.
And some get it and it saves a relationship, and some have to get it later, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's just how it is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they're already emotionally divorced,
Yeah.
if they've already emotionally made the decision that they're just coming to put a rubber stamp and say, I went to therapy and it didn't work, I can feel that right away when they come in, usually too. One of them's already kind of moved on. And then it's just really trying to get each of them to a good place to be able to move on in a good way. Rather, you don't have to harm each other and damage each other.
Rather than burning everything down.
Right, right.
The inverse, what's the most challenging thing about your work over these years?
Really dealing with the most difficult situations. I mean, loss of a child, suicide. There's just some that, again, if people will say, well, how can you counsel alcoholics if you haven't been an alcoholic, or how can you help people that lose a child when you've never lost a child? And again, I go back to, I have to be able to stay as centered as I can be with God as my center in order to just be present and hope that somebody will actually come in and be healed from some of those things.
Yeah.
I can't go out there and say, hey, I know how you feel. It's like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
That
throw away your
that doesn't
credibility
fly.
pretty quick.
No.
Well, tell us about Sherry, real quick. She's an artist.
Sherry,
she's
yeah.
a rambler.
She's a 6.
She
She
beats
beats
a
to
great
her
soul.
own drum.
She's
She
a great
is.
soul.
She is. I mean, she has helped me so much through the years as far as letting go of my 4. I mean, she knows my structure. She knows how 4-ish I am. I've got a list that has to be done by noon. Check, check,
Hey,
check,
hey,
check,
look.
check.
Look here. Let me
You got a list? Yeah,
see. This is what happens. See, this is
Yeah.
what we force
you bet.
threes do.
You bet.
It's my list I've been working on all week.
Yeah. And what I admire about Sherry is that, again, she'll get to it when she gets to it. You know, it's like, have you called that person back yet? It's like, I mean, I know the answer already. You know, why do I ask that question? You know, because again, and she'll get to it on her time. That's how most 6s operate.
Yeah.
And my unconditional love says that's who she is. And she's a wonderful person because of it.
And she's not intentionally trying to disappoint.
Not at all.
She's just being herself.
She's just being herself. That's right. And you got to love it. Yeah.
I'm gonna hard question. Retirement plans? Come on.
No,
now.
you know, people ask that all the time.
Well, I'm saying please no because you're depriving the community of you as a resource. But I'm.
Well,
you know,
no, I really don't. You know, as long as I just and really, I kind of believe that God's going to kind of direct it. Always has. He's directed my life every step of the way. I mean, I have not planned any of this. He's just kind of dropped these things in my lap. I didn't plan the Cope Center or Florida State
but you are the planner, the doer,
Well, I know.
the action taker, and yet the greatest things in your life have become as a surprise.
That's right.
That's my experience.
Yes. If I try to plan them, usually again,
screw it
I'll
up.
fall to my butt.
Yeah, I didn't know what you're about to
Yeah.
say there.
I was wondering the
Yeah.
same thing.
No, but retirement, no. I mean, I don't see it. You know, as the pandemic entered, I thought it might. I mean, I've talked
of
to my
course.
staff. We've got 9 workers, you know, at our place, 7 therapists. And I said, I don't know what his plan is, but if his plan is that we've got to shut down and move on, then that's what he'll let us know. And of course, just the opposite.
No.
And the floodgates
Oh,
opened,
man, I
and
can
it's
imagine.
like,
the coronavirus is just revealed so much
About
unhealthiness.
everything.
Everything.
it has.
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna finish with our little quarantine quiz. We always do this.
You
little
know, I
blitz at
didn't.
the
I didn't
end.
hear the end of these quarantine quizzes.
Okay.
So I don't
Well, it's
know
never
what
the
they-
same. It's never the same.
Okay,
So you're okay.
Okay.
Before we do this, I want to say to Lyle, just thank you. I mean that.
Absolutely.
This is
yeah.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's always just fun, you know.
There are some truly magnificent human beings in Walton County, Florida, and this man is one of them. And I mean that with all of my heart. And I don't want him to retire because I refer people to him.
I didn't
all
bring
the
my
time.
wallet, Ronnie.
It's all right. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Quarantine quiz.
How
Quarantine
much
quiz
do
for
I
the
owe
end.
for that one?
Wisconsin kid.
Yeah.
Bratwurst or cheese curds?
Wow, that is a tough one. I guess I got to go with the cheese curds. I mean, I love bratwurst too, but I'd
man,
take cheese
brats.
curds. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a hard one.
It is a very
one.
hard
Yeah.
one.
Do you like the ones that squeak too? I
Oh,
guess.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if they don't
yeah,
squeak, they're
yeah.
not real. Okay. Wisconsin basketball or go Packers?
Gosh, you're really throwing the tough ones at me. I mean, I was at the Ice Bowl in '67 when I was 17. Yeah.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah.
He
Love it.
survived.
I mean, I had face masks with icicles coming
Oh, I
down,
love
and I
that.
stood the entire game stomping like this because it was freezing cold.
Oh,
Heard
man.
the cheer when Bart Starr snuck it across.
Snuck
the
it
end
across
zone.
against Cowboys?
Couldn't see it; it was snowing.
Yeah.
You know, couldn't see it from the stands, and until the touchdown went up. And but that's so. I've got to go probably with the Packers.
Oh, it's a go Pack go. All right, your favorite tennis player, male and female.
Male and female.
That's Cindy's
Roger
question.
Federer is the greatest guy. I mean, he's, you know, I always say he can play tennis from the 6 and win matches. Djokovic and Nadal, they grind it out from the 4 and the 3. They're going to win matches, but they're going to have more injuries and they're going to have more difficult time lasting as long as Federer has. Federer
He's
hits
smooth, man.
He's from the 6. I mean, he's competitive.
Does he sweat?
You know? I haven't seen him sweat, you know.
Female? You have a favorite female player?
Boy, that's a tough one too. That's really a
It's
tough
hard.
one.
I know,
It
I know it.
is. I don't know. 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 I don't know I mean, you know, we just watched last night. Kim Clijsters came back.
I heard about that.
She lost, but I mean, I just like the six personalities.
That laid back.
Yeah, the ones that have fun, the ones that are playful, the, you know, high-fiving on the court, and they're just having fun out there as compared to the ones that are so intense, and they're in it to two, and they like to rip your face off. And you know,
that's a great answer.
So
That's
I
a great
love the
answer.
sixes.
All right, would you rather shovel snow for 3 months or 100 degrees for 3 months?
100 degrees. All the
Oh,
way.
wow,
Oh,
there was
man.
no
Man.
No,
there was
that's
no
not
hesitation
even.
whatsoever.
Yeah, people told me moving to Florida, it's so hot down there you can't stand it. We play every afternoon at 2 or 2:30. I love the sweat and the heat.
Ah, I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
favorite book? Got a favorite?
Since I've never really read a book.
There you go, Cindy. Cindy, I hope you're watching down there. You wanted me to ask him.
You know that?
You got a favorite movie?
Are
you a movie
Forrest Gump.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I like
great,
Forrest
great
Gump.
He's in.
movie.
He's in.
Okay, big dogs or little dogs?
Boy,
I'm being
those are
cruel
good ones.
now.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, you just saw my little one. I mean, I am in love with that little thing, and yet Sherry's favorite for sure, and one I loved was our Doberman. I mean, Piper. We had her for 13
dog.
years. Beautiful, sweet, kind. I mean,
Nothing
you
like
could
a
put a
dog.
baby's head in her mouth.
She
and
wouldn't hurt.
She wouldn't hurt.
Oh, I
You just
love
knew
it.
that she was so sweet.
Like our last question before we go. One thing left on your bucket list that you really want to do before your time is over. Is there anything out there?
Wow.
Or have you lived the fulfilled life?
I mean,
I
that's
love
really
this that you're
interesting.
thinking
Well,
about
it's
these.
really interesting because, you know, I went to Europe and went through 9 countries when I was 21. My sister was in Belgium, and she flew my cousin and I over there and loaned us her car.
What
and
a
we drove
gift.
through
What a
9
gift.
countries. And, but I was so young. I was 21. I just couldn't really
Right.
appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
So there's part of me that would love. Sherry doesn't fly. And so, you know, that
I'll go.
kind of rules
I'll
on
go.
You'll go.
You can call me
Lyle and
Sherry.
Garrett.
That's right, Lyle and Garrett. But that is always one thing I thought, you know, because I'd love to see those things now where I could really appreciate
Yeah.
them. But of course, now with the way things are,
Yeah.
you know, not going over there anytime soon.
Right.
So-
Right. Maybe midway through 21, they say.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe. Hey, thanks everybody for watching tonight. I mean, Lyle, you were a hit. I mean, tons of folks tuned in, tons of questions, tons of encouragement. And I'm telling you, this man does God's work, and he does it every day. Well, 2 days a week. And he
Yeah,
plays-
no,
and he plays tennis
Well,
the other time,
yeah.
and he is faithful to help Sherry do. She is a marvelous artist in this community as well. So I hope you get to know her as well. Just don't get too close because she likes her privacy too. So, but thanks for watching tonight. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday morning again right here for a couple more weeks. Then we're going to try our best for September 20th, 2020 to reopen with 2 services, a 9 o'clock and a 10:30 service. We'll see you Sunday morning right here at 10 o'clock. Thanks, Garrett. Thanks, Lyle, so much.
Great. Thanks, Ronnie.
Was a time of the preacher when a story begun. The choice of a woman and the love of a man, and how he loved her so dearly. He went out of his mind. Well, she left him